So walk us through for people to understand what the Verlander situation, because the no trade clause Verlander had, and he had to accept where people wanted to, or where he wanted to go, essentially. Um, just kind of walk through in your perspective of how you saw this whole situation out, and then also talk about you, since you know Drew Gilbert, the guy that the Mets are getting.
The thing about these type of deals, when you're a player like Justin Verlander, you have the opportunity to dictate, your future, if you will. He's at the point in his career where he's a mercenary. He's not going to go somewhere to rebuild. He wants to win titles. That's how these guys do it when they've had this type of run. This deal was done, I would guess, at least in principle, about a week ago. Now, there's a lot of scenarios that come through, and there's a lot of things that play out, and other teams get involved. And of course, it's still got to be the best offer. But Justin Verlander, he wasn't going to go to Cincinnati. I don't think that was an option for him. He wasn't necessarily interested in San Diego. His wife and Kate Upton and him, they sold their house in L.A., right, in Beverly Hills a year ago. So that was kind of an indication maybe the West Coast wasn't in the cards. And he's had such success in Houston, it kind of comes down to, listen, I like New York. Am I going to stay here? I will go to Baltimore. That was real. He was interested in coming to Baltimore with where they are now. I'm potentially going to Houston. So as the offers materialized, Mike Elias out there, as you guys well know, he has a certain plan and course he's going to stick to. I think he decided that, Verlander stakes might have been a little bit too rich. Jim Crane is, let's say, willing to do things like that with this window and maximize it, as Houston is a barren farm system in the first place. So, it's basically just starting over again a year later. So I think that was pretty easy to do. And when Verlander figured out that the Mets weren't going to try to contend for a little bit, it was see you later, New York. So I think it came together pretty quick. I think for sure, where I could get the sense on the ballpark, because they knew the night prior, right? And so all that was left was just figuring out, not necessarily was Drew Gilbert in the mix, was Ryan Clifford in the mix, was the Melton kid in the mix, who else were they going to put in there? Because the particulars of the dollars coming back to Houston and Justin Verlander coming to Houston were done.
So out of curiosity then, before I ask about Gilbert, if Elias said, yeah, I want to make this happen, the equivalent for you, what do you think it would have taken for the Orioles to get Verlander? Like, who would have had to been given up?
Yeah, so, the thing about the Orioles is that because of the way Mike has drafted since he got there, and because of the guys that were left behind, I don't know that there's a scenario where that happens with a player like Gilbert. I don't know if they had guys that were far enough away in their window, because in theory, they're just entering their window. Now they got to go win, right? But this is just getting going. So guys like Kauser and Kerstad and Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez and the guys that have started to arrive, some of which he drafted, some of which he didn't, I don't see him parting with that young core. They're controllable. They're all already at the big league level or close to the big league level. So that's not something he's going to do. And it's a smart move they did, and frankly, for the Orioles sit versus where the Astros are. So I know what the question was, what would he give up? I don't see a scenario where Mike does that deal. I think it's like, look, we'll do something with a 1-to-1. We'll do something with one player out of. I'm not giving you what you're asking for. So I don't think it got very far.
Interesting. Yeah, because the biggest two headways in Baltimore were what was it going to take to get Verlander, then the final reports of the Orioles talking to Dylan Cease and the White Sox, and there was the rumors about what would that take. And I'm with you, though, on that. There was no I didn't see any scenario where the Orioles were going to part with any of their top-tier guys, especially when they feel like their window maybe wasn't supposed to be this year. It was supposed to be maybe the next year, 2 years, 3 years down the road.